podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Before we begin this edition of Achtung Millwall, I would like, if I may, to dedicate the whole show to the memory of young Oscar Fares, the under-15 West Ham United goalkeeper, who it was announced tragically passed away, having not won his battle against cancer. Bill Slack and I had the pleasure of speaking with Oscar during the recent walk that we did from the Den to the London Stadium, trying to help generate some money for his recovery. He was in a clinic in France, and his mum took the chance to say thank you to us via FaceTime, and we had the pleasure of speaking with Oscar as we were walking through the Isle of Dogs. A terrific personality, a real bubbly kid, terrific kind of banter we had with him. And you could see, obviously, he wasn't well, badly he wasn't well. And this is tragic news that we've seen earlier this week. So my heart, and I know Bill's heart, goes out to the Fares family. And I would like just to dedicate this show to the memory of Oscar, who we only knew briefly, but he left his mark. And that's all you can do in this life. R.I.P. Oscar Fares, 2009 to 2024.
You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
I'm confident to leave the club in safe hands under James, and just hope the football club spoke to the players in there, and hope this message goes to the supporters as well, that it's now time to reset. The board will find the next man for the job at the right time. The new guy comes in, everyone throws their weight behind him, because this football club's at its best when it's a juggernaut and it's galvanised, and that's what needs to happen now.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to this edition of Achtung Millwall. Those voices were of course the travelling support, 387. Hats off to them all that went up to Middlesbrough yesterday for that 1-0 loss in the end. And then followed of course by Neil Bomber Harris, our departed manager, in the wake of recent announcements this week, recent events shall we call them. That was Bomber's last hurrah, as I've written on my notes here. A 1-0 loss in the end. A typical Millwall match, really. Probably a typical Neil Harris match in some respects, and I'll qualify that in a moment. Obviously, there were many viewpoints around the Mill scene on Neil Harris's departure this week, and the what many have termed the soap opera that lies behind it. I just want to say from the very start that I 100% support what he just said, that whoever gets appointed this week, is essential that we all pull together. I'm not one for telling people what to do, but I can tell you, dear listener, that if we don't pull together, then we surely will pull apart, and we just don't have the resources or the depth generally at our club to survive in the Championship for very long, unless we all do, as Neil put it there, pull together in the Mill juggernaut style. So yeah, 100% behind what Neil said there. Let's begin by just reviewing the game yesterday. A starting 11 of Lucas Jensen. You can't call him John Jensen, he was an ancient player. Lucas Jensen in goal. Back line, Danny Mack, Jeff Tanganga, Murray Wallace, I didn't think did too badly yesterday, and Ryan Leonard doing his usual Ryan Leonard stuff across the back line. In front of them, the defensive two, Jules Saville and Casper Denor, replaced by Billy Mitchell in the 76th minute. In front of them, the attacking three, Femi Aziz replaced by Marku on 58, Romain Esse replaced by Ivanovic on 76, and George Honeyman replaced by Duncan Watmore on 58 minutes up front. Macaulay Langstaff and replaced there by Tom Bradshaw on 76. Now, what a bad start yesterday for Millwall. I must admit, I started watching the game, the stream, wondering what kind of show we're going to get out of a team that looked pretty flat on Wednesday night. The whole event on Wednesday night, for anyone that went there, felt empty. Lacklustre. The den was barely half full, and I wondered what we were going to see yesterday. Well, what we did see was a good effort by a Millwall side that wanted to play for their gaffer, and we could have been a couple of goals to the good. In all truth, in the first minute, Femi Aziz had a shot blocked, and then a chance for Macaulay Langstaff where really probably should have done better. A ball came free from loose play, chance in front of goal, good save by the Middlesbrough goalkeeper, but two good chances and the difference will come on the 9th minute when the first opportunity for Middlesbrough was put away with aplomb. Basically a ball through the middle. Jensen couldn't get down to it, almost went through him in actual fact, was shot on target by the player. I think his name's Latte, and I kept having the image of Latte Larry from Curb Your Enthusiasm, for anyone that knows that show. And I couldn't get that out of my head for the whole match. But anyway, Latte Larry scored on 9 minutes. And that was the difference, really, because another chance cropped up on 26, another chance for Aziz, a shot saved when he should have scored. And that's been really the storyline of many, many games under Neil Harris. I mean, we've had a good run of performances overall, but this lack of goal-scoring ability, combined with the need or the necessity or the choice of the manager to grind out results. We'll come back to that, I dare say, a few times across this show. But that in a nutshell has been the style. A couple of moments in the first half as it went along for Middlesbrough, nothing decisive. It was 1-0 at half time, and I've noted here it was that lack of finishing that was the difference. So it continued for the second half, really. Not many chances for Millwall in the second half. The first half much better than the second from our perspective. Middlesbrough worked hard, but never really looked, like they were. Whether they had another gear to go up to or not, I don't know. I had a message from Mark, one of my friends who's a Boro fan, saying that was the worst he's seen Middlesbrough play all season. And I think that's probably a tribute to Neil's innate ability to spoil a game, if that's the right term. I don't know if that is the right term, because I think it's an art form to go to opponents with more money and superior resources and, drag it into the kind of game that you want it to be from your perspective, and that's what he was very good at. And sometimes those kinds of approaches have sneaked 1-0 wins for us on a good number of occasions, in all truth. And it just didn't work out our way yesterday. The decisive finish was on 9 minutes. We just couldn't match that, and so it finished 1-0 in the end. And that is the end of the Neil Harris reign. Where does it sit in the kind of big pantheon of Millwall history? I think Neil Harris's return last season, when we were staring at relegation full in the face under Joe Edwards. I've said this a few times on various platforms and shows and interviews. I think that was one of the standout achievements of Millwall history, in a sense, given the figures and the money that sloshes around in the Championship now. To preserve us in that division when we look so doomed, I think is a huge achievement. And this season, well, events have changed off the pitch, haven't they? We'll probably come back to that, because I think it probably underpins everything that's happened since. This is the desire of our owner, Jimmy Barrelson, to transform us by policy almost into a club that finds and develops talent and then sells it at profit. Now, we've always been a club that's had to sell our promising youngsters, but it's probably more been a case of having to rather than choosing to. And that's probably the big difference between where we've been at historically, always having to sell, probably underpriced as well. I think that's one criticism I think we'd all make of Millwall over the years. We've always undersold. We've always been in a position where we've been having to accept deals and prices at the behest of bigger, more wealthier clubs. And so we're going to have to take what we've been given. And I think there's a choice by Jimmy Barrelson with his man Steve Gallen at Millwall to change direction, to turn us into a club that is like, it's been done, I've said this a few times, like Brentford have done to get into the Premier League. That's a hard road to go down, because it means that you have to accept playing players like some of the youngsters that you don't think are up to scratch or aren't there yet in terms of development, and watch them make errors and mistakes. And I think that's probably at the nub of the soap opera that we've watched unfold this season. The rights and wrongs of that, well, you're going to have to come to your own opinion, listeners. One thing I've noticed with Neil Harris particularly is, for the most part, most of us kind of admire him as a person, as a manager, as a Mill figure. There is a certain difference of opinions, I think, probably would be the best way I'd put it, the most diplomatic choice of words. Not everyone loves Neil Harris. That struck me. Not everyone loves everyone, do they? I mean, that's the way of life. But I just wanted to stress my admiration for what he achieved, particularly last season. His standing in the club is, for me, second to none. 31 games, according to my back of an envelope calculation I did this morning, from February. He's returning late February this year and now leaving mid-December. 31 played, 15 wins, 9 draws, 10 losses. I made it 33 goals scored, 27 against, but I was getting a bit... my eyes were playing me up at the time, so I'll stand to be corrected on those numbers. So yeah, there we are. Now, there's been quite a lot of comment flying around on the net. I've had a few messages and an article sent to me by Rob Liddle, Millwall fan. This is in the Times. So I've got a screenshot. I don't subscribe to the Times, but it's an interesting article. Nevertheless, it's interesting because it's in a international now paper. The headline is, I suspect Neil Harris aimed his infamous Thicko's jibe at the Millwall board and not the fans. And that's an interesting take. I mean, a lot of us have been saying that privately. It's interesting to see that written out on screen. The head coach worked wonders, says Rob Liddle, but is right to step away after being hamstrung by an insistence from behind the scenes, which is Gallen and Jimmy Berylson. That's he's the man that pays for it all. An insistence from behind the scenes that the team play like Barcelona at their peak, and Liddle goes on to make the point that the club does not have a squad really set up or geared to play that kind of football. This is where Joe Edwards took us to. The idea of playing it out from the back and knocking it around. When it works, it looked beautiful, but it was only working for decreasing amounts of time under Joe Edwards. So quite a long article in the Times about the Harris situation by Rob Liddle. That's going to be that's going to be an interesting bit of pressure to put onto the club, let's put it that way. A message here from Jim Hackett, one of our regular contributors, just a text message from Jim. It's the same old story, says Jim. Whoever comes in has got to get us playing with two, or at least one, an attacking midfielder, 1.5 strikers, as he puts it, two or an attacking midfielder and a striker. Our defenders, midfield and wide players aren't bad. It's the inability of front players to either hold the ball up or create for others that gives us problems. Early season we look comfortable, but now we're creating a couple of chances every game and hoping to score. A couple of quality new players will help, as we'll be getting a non-injury prone established striker. I think that's his hope, that we get that. I don't know if unless Jim knows something we don't. He says he's positive we can do okay with a decent head coach and a good assistant. Now, I was just looking at the betting market before I started recording this, listeners. Stephen Schumacher of Plymouth and previously Stoke City is the current favourite. It does seem to vary, and obviously in the end, the betting market is not some kind of Encyclopedia Britannica. It's just where people have put their money. David Wagner is another name that's in the mix. Mark Robbins seems to be moving away. I don't think anyone really truthfully knows. It's going to be a big call. It's going to be a big... there's going to be a reconciliation between the board, which means Jimmy Berylson, his man Steve Gallen, and whoever gets appointed. For me, there's two strands to who you can appoint. One is an unknown coach, someone that will come in and basically do as they're told, which I think is what's stuck in Neil Harris's craw, rather, that he's being asked, told, requested strongly to play players that he doesn't think are capable of holding the line in the Championship in order to develop them. or as his choice would be to play old sweats, e.g. Tom Bradshaw at Oxford, that many will criticise. So are we going to get a coach that will do as he's told in that sense, and then we have to watch them probably make errors, kids make errors, and we have to watch that whilst we hope that we get enough points to survive in the Championship, because that's going to be a real concern if we don't start getting some results fairly soon. We've now lost 3 on the spin, so we don't want to start sinking. So we need someone to both play the youngsters as per instructions, or do we get an experienced coach? So someone mentioned Tony Mowbray earlier on. I can't see a man of Tony Mowbray's standing. He's recovering from his illness now and is looking to get back into work. But it's difficult to see any manager like Neil Harris, in all truth, listeners, taking instructions from somebody else as to what level of team or what team choices he should make. There's going to be a problem there. That's going to need to be resolved and reconciled before any appointment can truly take place. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't have any inside track. I don't purport to, have any inside knowledge at all. As Rob Little makes the point, the James Berylson has taken over from his very popular dad, who had probably a fairly paternalistic approach to the staffing and players of Millwall Football Club. I don't get a sense that Jimmy Berylson does. He's cleared out quite a lot of Millwall experience in the summertime in the shape of Steve Kavanagh, Billy Taylor and Alex Aldrich, and now Neil Harris. That's a lot of Millwall experience gone, and whoever comes in won't have that same kind of depth of Millwallness, coin a phrase. So it's a big call. It's a big call when you're halfway through a season and the trapdoor underneath our feet we're not near it yet, but it's starting to rattle a little bit in the wind beneath us. There we are. Now then, we've got a few voice notes to play you, dear listeners. Big thank you to everyone who sent stuff in. I'm going to play the voice notes, and then when we finish with the voice notes, we're going to come back with an interview I did with Harry Warren earlier on. So stay tuned. Next up, it's the voice notes.
Achtung, Millwall.
Hello?
That's Rob Woodford from Block 4, Nick. Just reflections from yesterday's match, which was far from a spectacle, but a decent away performance. We went toe-to-toe with a team destined for the playoffs. And again, just the one goal, the difference. And again, we missed chances that would have found the back of the net with a bit more quality and composure. Amazingly, after 3 defeats, we are still 8 points away from the drop zone. And effectively 9, given the current goal difference, and we do have a game in hand. Any new manager will inherit a disciplined defensive unit, especially if Tanganga stays in January. But we'll wonder where the goals are coming from. Finances permitting, we do need to sign a championship standard centre forward. But look, the main thing is we bid farewell to a Lions legend yesterday, and thanks for the memories, Gaffer. Bomber joined Millwall Football Club in 1998 and has been a defining figure at the club for 26 years. That's a quarter of a century. His remarkable journey as both a player and a manager cements his unique and unparalleled legacy in the club's illustrious history, doesn't it? You can imagine how he must have felt walking out in front of 47,000 passionate Wall fans at Wembley in the league trophy final. An experience that surely deepened his love and commitment to the club. Making 431 appearances for Millwall, placing him 4th in the all-time appearances list behind fellow club legends Harry Cripps, Keith Stevens and Barry Kitchener. He's also the club's all-time record goal scorer with 138 goals, a milestone that saw him surpass the records of both Derek Possey and Teddy Sheringham, to the delight of some of us Lions fans of advanced years. I think his achievements are even more extraordinary considering the challenge he faced during his career, being sidelined for a period after being diagnosed with cancer. And he was also transferred out of the club under Dennis Wise, wasn't he, returning 3 years later to continue that legacy. And just imagine how many more appearances and goals he would have racked up without those times away from the Den. So respect to the man. Retiring as a player, he transitioned into management, taking charge of the Millwall under-21s and served as joint caretaker manager before being appointed permanent manager in 2015. And his contributions on and off the pitch have made him an enduring icon at Millwall Football Club. You know, and since his return, he saved us from relegation with a miraculous turnaround that saw us winning the last 5 games of the season. Since his appointment, Millwall, 4th in the most points list, 51 points from the last 32 championship fixtures. You know, in my opinion, Neil Harris is without doubt one of our all-time greats and has also been a superb ambassador for Millwall Football Club. Sorry to drone on and on about this, Nick, but I think it has to be recorded. The new guy's he was a hard act to follow. Come on, you Lions. Keep it on the island, Wall.
All right, Nick. It's Lawrence Binney here calling in after Middlesbrough 1, Millwall 0. Neil's final game in charge of the club, for the time being anyway. And I felt actually we probably deserved to come away with something again. I was very impressed with our level of effort. Our energy levels were fantastic. We played some really nice stuff as well at times. Just lacking a bit of quality at the moment, aren't we? We're kind of engineering really good openings in and around the penalty area, which just don't decision making or final ball is letting us down a bit. I think typified by Romain Esse's performance today, who I think at certain moments looked, every inch a Premier League player, thinking of that ball that he plays for Aziz that completely evades the Boro defence. And I think Aziz should be doing better. He has a bit too much time to think about it. But then, you had those moments where you're thinking, you wriggle past 6 players now, just release the ball. And he gets tackled. But, he's a young player, and I think he's being asked to do a lot of heavy lifting in that attack at the moment. Langstaff runs around a lot of effort, but, not very much in the way of quality. He needs a goal. He needs support as well, to be fair. Aziz, again, shows for it, even when even when things aren't going his way, he doesn't shirk. He's always making himself available, and I like that in a player. I think we've got some good players here. We've got some really good players that we can develop over the next couple of years. Even Ivanovic, he's 19 years old. I've seen a lot of people giving him a lot of stick over the past couple of games. But, he is a 19-year-old kid who's come from a foreign country. He needs time. You can't judge him off one start and a few kind of cameo appearances here and there. Again, I'm talking to young players. Amaku came on, looked bright. He really, he looks like a proper little pit bull on the pitch in person, but on a telly, I think from a lower angle, you can kind of see how imposing he is and how fast he is. He could be a really good player for us. But again, it's about coaching, isn't it, and opportunities, and ultimately his own attitude. There's lots to be encouraged about, but I think there's a lot in this squad where I'm thinking, just very, very down the middle average players, and I use average in the true sense of the word, not the modern sense, which for some reason has come to mean shit. I mean, just average. There's a reason why. People complain about Watmore looking like Messi earlier in the season, and now he's kind of struggling to, make simple passes or go past the man. Well, it's because he's an average player. So he will look brilliant sometimes. He will also look shit a lot of times. There's a reason why he's at a club like Millwall and not, with Sunderland or a Sheffield United. There's the grafters. There are players like Watmore, Honeyman, Murray, to a lesser extent, even Danny McNamara, and George Saville. These players who are good, honest pros, but I think with a forward-looking strategy, we're looking to replace them year on year, and hopefully we will be replacing them year on year. Not completely phasing them out, because I think we do need their experience, but these are players that we are going to be having to look to upgrade on if we're going to, make a shot at the top six, which I think is always a bit pie in the sky anyway. To be honest, I think people could rightly argue you should just be happy staying up, but there we go. Fuck knows who we're going to get in. I think Wagner is shortest odds. I think again that's an appointment that looks good on paper, but I think if people didn't like Gaya Rowett, I think don't think they're exactly going to warm to Wagner, who's not exactly a charismatic man and plays quite defensive football. But who knows? I said the same thing about Kenny Jackett nearly 20 years ago. And he turned out pretty well for us, didn't he? Anyway, Nick, great work on the pod. Keep it up. Come on, you Lions. Right, Nick, just wanted to send in the last bit, a postscript, if you will, about maybe the state of the club at the moment, as Neil Harris leaves it. And I think, you can get into the weeds about league positions and performances and, where we were on the table when Neil took over and where we are. And, now he's left us, undoubtedly a healthier position overall. But I think it's deeper than that. I look at social media, I look at the way that I think some of the younger fans talk about the club. And social media has this weird effect where it basically just like levels, erases history, really makes it difficult to put the spirit, the ethos of the club in perspective. And this is something that doesn't just infect younger fans, it's infected myself and has infected other slightly older fans, although I'm not that old, I'm only 34. But people who should perhaps know a bit better. I noticed that we talk by default as if, the top six is where we need to be at, and that's the next stage. I mean, if you told me that 5-6 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. That just didn't seem possible. And there was one man who made that possible, and it was Gary Rowett, who consolidated the club. And I would say maybe about half of Millwall fans don't rate Gary Rowett. So it sort of shows you how fickle football support is. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter, because as great as it was kind of gunning for promotion for that one season where we nearly made the playoffs in the final day, I didn't come away from that game gutted, because Millwall home games under Gary Rowett felt like a non-event. There was none of the spirit and the ethos and the passion, the mentality that I have come to associate with this club in the 30 odd years that I've been going. I'm not dissing Gary Rowett. I think he came in, he had a brief and he fulfilled that brief and he did very well. But this club is more than just about results. It's a bastion against the modern game. We beat around the bush, but Millwall Football Club, and it's not just us who talk about this, it's other football supporters as well. Clubs like Millwall, Leeds, to a lesser extent, clubs like Portsmouth. We are the last of the true football clubs. We support that reflect the area for the most part, with working class roots, and that's something we should be proud of, and that's something that Neil Harris typified, and we're now losing that. It is a bit of a be careful what you wish for moment. This club is moving into the future. That future could mean, according to some metrics, it could progress, and we could become a club that get 30,000 supporters in the door and reach the Premier League. But I think you only have to look at the crowd on certain match days on Saturday afternoons, and then the crowd for the Sheffield United game, the last home game possibly ever for perhaps the greatest player who's ever played for this club, the biggest legend, and I don't say that lightly, and there was no one there. let's think about what we value as a club. So, you know, like it's it's a poison chalice, the Premier League. Success is a poison chalice, and it might change us irrevocably. End of ramble basically. But sorry about that, Nick. Cheers.
Hello, Joe from Chicago. Feel for Neil Harris. That's a terrible way to go out after all he did in the last year for us. 3 consecutive 1-0 losses. Guys aren't playing for the badge. That's just bad. And losing 1-0 to Boro, that's like giving up a goal to Boro is fine. Latte Loth, like if you're gonna give up a goal, they did it, and it was Murray Wallace, fine. But this effort in the second half just wasn't there. The Denor coming off for Billy Mitchell made no sense. Billy didn't play well, and Denor was the only midfielder really going up and down the pitch. He's got a week to rest between matches. I would have kept him on, and Saville's feeds just weren't good today. I'm very frustrated. I'm worried about Macaulay Langstaff. At this point, it's 18, 19 games, and he only has 1 goal. He's had so many opportunities to turn losses into draws, and he just looks like a League 2 player playing in the championship. Femi Aziz should be taking all of our set pieces at this point. His service is better than anybody else on the team. Yeah, I'm frustrated. Haven't scored multiple goals since September. This is just not fun. Cheers. Have a great week. Can't wait to play Blackburn next week. That always is a normal game. Come on, you Lions. I have to go to a Man City event tomorrow, so I'm going to be wearing my scarf. And, I was hoping to be able to make jokes to these people about a terrible run, but I guess I can't really even talk right now. Anyhow, cheers.
Morning, Nick. Matt Webb. With my thoughts on yesterday and obviously looking ahead. I didn't obviously watch the game. I only could go by highlights. So really, truthfully, I'm not going to comment too much on a game that I didn't see. But what I did see is a team that obviously can play football, and on a better day, on a better situation, we probably would have been able to take our chances. The 2 shots that we had, I'll start with them. Do you know what? They're through. Langstaff and Aziz through on goal. I mean, start with Langstaff. He pounced on a real poor back pass, and the goalkeeper came out and spread himself. He done the correct, as a goalkeeper, he done the correct technique. He came out, closed the angle down, and spread himself well. And he was a big, big lad. So more for, I don't want the haters to think, Langstaff missed a golden opportunity. I think more kudos to the goalkeeper there. I think he done really, really well. And all right, if you're a player that's probably ex-Prem or high-end championship, you probably would have been able to find a route past that goalkeeper. But on that occasion, he didn't. And the same applies to Aziz's opportunity. I mean, what an absolute amazing ball by SA. That was a wonderful ball. It was a great takedown, great touch onto his right and took it onto his left. But again, the goalkeeper came out really quick, raced out, set himself, spread himself really well, and again, pulled off a real good save, technically a good save. Again, if you're top end championship or Premier League standard, you probably would have found a way to get past the goalkeeper on that occasion. Their goal, you see it in the highlights and in the replay, you see Tanganga pointing to Murray Wallace, that Lati Laff pulled away from him. So Tanganga was keeping his space and marking his zone. And unfortunately, Murray Wallace was caught out of position. Hence why the ball was passed, and it was like a very blasé sort of attempt to back flick it past to intercept the pass. So, yeah, bit out of shape there, bit out of positioning. But, that's something obviously we can do better, and hopefully we can. So moving on, obviously that was Neil's last game, and I think I'm not going to exhaust this voice note with good luck Neil, good, well done, thanks very much, blah blah. I've done that already, and so has everyone else. But we need to move forward. You know, we can't rest on what's happened. We need to move forward. So the question is, well, who is next? So first and foremost, I don't think anyone can listen to what bookmakers are doing. You know, they've got certain managers who are favourites one day and the next. Basically, you need a coach who's got some management pedigree that can develop, you know, who's got some experience managing in the Championship, and he's not an also complete failure. I mean, that's the thing, but we need to start looking a little bit more further afield. I mean, there's talks that Robbins has turned us down. Okay, if it ain't ready for him, it ain't ready for him. Oh well, never mind, we'll find someone else. But I just want to put 3 names in the hat, which I don't know if any of them have actually been brought up. My first one is, especially after yesterday's result, I would say Gary O'Neill is now going to be a name that's going to probably be bandied about, because I mean, I don't know Wolves, I don't know how they are, but I'm certain the pressure of his position at Wolves is now become untenable, especially if you come out of the Premier League and the riches that they have. So I think that's going to be a name that might band about. Being a local lad as well, I think he's Beckenham bound, so Beckenham way, so he could potentially want to come home, be closer to family. Second one, and I said this prior to actually Joe Edwards' appointment, and okay, this one has not got management experience in Championship, but does in Premier League, and that's Ryan Mason. Young, hungry coach, can play a style of football that probably fans would like, but has got management experience with Tottenham. I mean, you can't get any more high pressure than being a caretaker manager in the Premier League, I don't think. So I'd like to throw his name as a suggestion. But my third one, and this is a bit left field, and he's managed a team that is underdog, or has an underdog status, and I say the style of football, or the calibre of players he got is very mixed, and I say the team that he managed at the time were of a Championship status. Now that's a clue there. I would actually see whether someone like Robert Page would be an option. As I said, he managed Wales for all those years, and I think we all can agree that Wales did overachieve in their time, albeit there was one main player in Bale. But you look at that team and you think that is probably a Championship standard team. And I'm just thinking, he's been out the game now for a little while. He's probably reset his batteries. Would Millwall think about him, or would Robert Page be? And I just wanted to throw that name in the ring. And these are 3 names that the bookmakers haven't thrown up yet. And you know, I just think when you appoint a manager, you need to have the right person. So I think it's going to be an exciting 6 days ahead at Millwall Football Club until the next game at Blackburn. I'm hoping the powers that may be have got someone in mind. They probably had someone in mind for, I don't know, a couple of months, maybe at the beginning of the season. Who knows? But yeah, I think we've got some interesting few days ahead, mate. So you try and rest up as best as you can, mate. And I think we'll all be glued to X, Instagram, Facebooks, WhatsApp messages, you know, and we'll see what happens. So come on, you lines.
Good morning, Nick. Jamie from Australia. After just watching Middlesbrough beat Millwall 1-0, I just want to give my thoughts. I thought the best player on the pitch was probably SA. Some great, lovely balls. The only bit of creativity we really had. We had the better chances maybe in the first half, and I think that was the difference. They had one moment of quality by their striker, and he got the ball. Unfortunately, I could see on Tanganga pointing to Wallace where he should be. He adjusted too late, was turned too slow, and the goal scorer, Latte, was in 1-0. Again, I think we had chances with Aziz after that, and then there was one other in the first half. Yeah, SA, when he had a lovely darting run, and unfortunately couldn't give the finish, which was needed, and that will hopefully come, and hopefully not just in a Palace shirt. I believe that McNamara had a good game against the rising Scottish star Duque. Saw him off, Doak, or his name is, and then Conway when he came on as well, and the particularly good one-on-one challenge. Leonard was solid as usual, but overall I think it was summed up by the commentator that said Millwall have failed to win when they've conceded in the last 34 games. Now, with that kind of statistic, you can never really expect promotion, because there's no way you're not going to go behind it in a playoff game. So Millwall had set out to grind Middlesbrough, and then bring on the cavalry in the names of Watmore and Idemo. Unfortunately, it didn't work. We had a couple of late penalty shouts. First one was from a great run by Tanganga, which is a bit alarming that he needs our centre back to do that, put a quality ball in, and perhaps Ivanovic got a little tug, but maybe not enough under the circumstances. And then the other one, which was the handball, I'll be winding that watch back. I think if it was a handball, it was just outside the box anyway, and we were never going to score from the resulting free kick. It's a shame for Harris. I think he can leave with his head held high. With it, we'll say Harris ball, he will only ever win 1-0 or lose 1-0 with the current style of play. And unfortunately, the last 3 games were 1-0. Must be a confusing time for the players with him going as well. He didn't really see himself on the touchline. Couldn't really see him shouting too much. He looked like a man sort of, I wouldn't say lost, but just a bit disappointed. But we wish him all the best in the future. He's a legend, and we look forward to the next era of Millwall, whatever that may be. I'm just worried about the lack of quality in this squad a bit, and how we'd actually move away from the Neil Harris style with the current crop of players, and how we wouldn't run into the same Edwards problem again, even if we've got Pep Guardiola in. So, onwards and upwards, come on, Lions.
Achtung, Millwall.
Welcome back to the show, dear listeners. Joining me now is a friend of the show, a constant refrain in our soap opera. It's Harry Warren. How are you, H?
Oh, fucking soap opera Millwall. Will be the death of all of us, won't they? They will be the death of all of us.
It will be. I mean, it's a very strange thing. Obviously, we're speaking after yesterday's game. I know you didn't see it, so I won't dwell on yesterday's performance. I didn't think we played that badly, but it was the same story in a nutshell, Harry, of creating chances and then not taking them, whereas yesterday, at least, Boro did. They had their moment, they took it. But I've just wanted to try and do something with you, because you are a known kind of I think all of us are fans of Neil Harris, but you're kind of more vociferous than most, perhaps, and in terms of putting Harris's case, so to speak. Just wanted to kind of do a wrap up, really, on Neil's second spell, because I've said a few times on some of the journalistic interviews, people contact me for interviews, listeners,
Clang.
and clang, because I don't know why, they just do. But I personally think his achievements in keeping us up last season was the match of anything that has been achieved in a very, very long time at the club. Certainly, I'd probably put it above his promotion, really, in the first spell, because we were heading downwards, playing a style of football that I do worry we're likely to try and recreate a second time around now. But we'll come back to that. But I done a quick back of the envelope tot up of his second spell, Neil Harris's second spell. Well, this is all competitions, listeners. I've 31 games, 15 wins, 9 draws, lost 10 with the last few games. 33 scored, 27 conceded. Pretty good form, I would say. Certainly amongst the best winning percentage that the Mill History website has amongst the all-time Millwall management, Harry. How do you see Neil's second spell? How would you sum it up, mate, for you?
Well, I mean, to follow that, I don't think anyone else could have done what he did last season.
Right.
And that's anyone else. Realistically, you look at it and you think to yourself, what are we meant to what are we meant to do next? I think that is the problem for the club. It's always going to be the problem for the club, because that spell was so good that it almost made, there was a lot of people when he come in. We done the show. Neil Fisler, I'm going to damn him with it's the death of Millwall Football Club. I think we're much more likely to see the death of Millwall Football Club when we go away from our true working class values and what we understand and our visions of loyalty. And I think the club is doing that. That's my opinion. And I don't want to be drawn into that. I just think I think we're rudderless. I think we've just, the last anchor of the John Berylson era of Millwall Football Club has been removed. And I don't necessarily think it's the right time. All these ideas, we can all have ideas of how football should be played. I'm old fashioned. I think that hard work, effort, and being organised are 90 sort of percent of football. You can have systems, tactics. You can have the best players in the world, but if they don't try hard and they don't run around for the fans, the manager, and their pay slip, you'll get beat. Look at Manchester United, for instance.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
you know,
a collection of individuals. I mean, highly rated individuals, highly valued individuals. But if they don't play as a team, you're right. They're a second-rate side in that situation. I mean, I've done a few notes for myself here, and I suppose the nub of it really, I mean, the thing that's brought matters to a head this season, because Neil came back to us in February, just 10 months ago. It seems, that in itself seems is quite a short space of time, actually, since he arrived. But he came with this 18-month contract and the intention to see that out. Clearly, things this season, Harry, have been brought to a head by, I'm going to guess, and I'm not going to ask you to speculate particularly. I think this is probably fairly common knowledge that personnel changes behind the scene, and the kind of panto villain figure, I suppose, is Steve Gallen, who's come in as director of football from the summertime onwards. But underpinning that, because underpinning Steve Gallen is Jimmy Berylson, the owner. His money pays for our club, listeners. There's no point in
Dad's money pays for our club.
well, the Berylson man, the money pays for the
Yeah.
club. There's not. That's the reality of it. And if you value our club, then we've got to keep that in mind. So there it is. But there is a desire. I don't know how thought through this desire is, Harry. Maybe you've just mentioned the virtues that I would also been brought up on Millwall. Get the ball forwards, get maximum work and effort, and all the rest of it. Not necessarily unskillful football, but certainly, you play in a certain style in a certain way. And I think Neil Harris tapped into it during his time since February. But the thing that strikes me is there's a fundamental conflict here, because there is on the one hand, to develop young players. So we're going to be talking about Ivanovic and to some level, I suppose, Aziz and Imaku and others. The kind of new wave of players youngsters we've got at the moment, to bring them to a point where they can probably hold their own in the Championship requires a different approach to a football manager needing points on the board, and to the underpinning everything is a desire and a necessity to stay in the Championship. So you don't do that unless you get 3 points on the board, and that maybe takes a different kind of more experienced player to achieve that. So there's a fundamental tension there, Harry. Developing players is one thing, but winning games in the Championship, which is one of the toughest leagues and most competitive leagues, I'd say, in Europe, that requires a different approach. And there's the pull. Do you not think that you've almost got like a crossroads, a fork in the road,
Yeah.
two different ways
I mean,
to approach it.
My problem is that we don't loan players out very well. We don't. So to say we need to sign these players and to do all these things, that's great. It's a brilliant idea. I mean, many football clubs have tried to do this and have failed magnificently. Whenever we try to do anything overly ambitious, we fail as a club magnificently. Probably the only thing that we've ever done that's ambitious is to leave the old den and come to the new den, and that nearly financially fucking broke the club. So you could argue for the values of that. My problem is I will go back to I can talk about facts, and you can bring it down to, this is the figures that are being talked about for Ivanovic and I can't remember off the top of my head what the figure was for Femi Aziz. Now, one was less than the other. I know Aziz was less money than Ivanovic, rumoured to be. I know which one is more ready for Championship football. This tote about that he's played for the Serbian national side. Can I just point out to everyone that he's played for the Serbian national side for 7 minutes, and the Serbian national side has 6.18. Serbia as a country has a population of 6.18 million. Right, the
That's like Scotland, same size as Scotland or something.
Greater London has a population of 8.68 million people. Right,
Yeah.
This is not an elite football nation. So using that to make a defence of whether or not he should be playing or whatever, right? It's not. The fact of the matter is that we watched him the other night. Yes, it was against top of the table. I thought he looked like a Southern Amateur Park player. I'm being honest, right? Now, will he be that forever? No. He reminded me of Kevin Braniff, actually. That's what he reminded me of. You know, when they get the ball was all right, but fucking lightweight fucked, right? That's fine. Would he be good at League One level? I don't know. Does he need to go to League One? Maybe, right? But you can't do that with a £3 million signing. So, and we don't loan players anyway. There's this idea that it's simple. This is really hard to get right. It takes years. It takes models. There's a fact that 80% of all transfers fail. The problem is at Millwall is instead of like at other clubs where you have 10 million quid and if it don't work out, you've got another 10 million quid to put it right. We don't have that. So it looks even worse at us because you know they're not going to spend another 3 million quid to buy someone for now. And you kind of need a free, if you're going to sign 6 players in this model, you need to sign 3 for the future and 3 for now. But to me, we haven't done that either. We've just gone for these for kids. You know, did we need to sign Kelly? Did we? Did you think that we needed another centre midfielder at this club, or do you think maybe replacing Murray Wallace, who seemingly is, you know, gone, shall we say, and fucking Jake Cooper, Hutchinson, and Tanganga? Well, arguably, when you play 2 centre halves, you need a third one. So I'd suggest we still don't have a replacement right back. Really, Ryan Leonard wasn't a right back. You know, there's other issues with the squad.
I mean, I think the thing, just going back to Ivanovic for a moment, I mean, my take on the boy is he's clearly tall. To hold as a single striker in the Championship up against experienced defenders like we saw against Sheffield in midweek, Harry, is not easy. You need to be physically strong. I don't think he's strong enough at the moment. He's got work to do in the gym, I think, to try and build that up. I suppose the obvious comparison would be another Serbian, Mitrovic, would be, I think, what we've bought him for, hoping that we've found another Mitrovic, you know, somebody of that standing. And to go really silly, maybe Ibrahimovic at the very, very top table. But to get to that level, he needs to do a lot of work. And I don't dismiss him. I mean, I've seen a lot of, in fact, the last show we did, a lot of people left voice notes kind of dismissing him. I don't dismiss him because I think, you know, we've seen over the years, I can think back as far as Richard Sadlier and you know, a lot of youngsters have come to us, and as Teddy Sheringham, I'd also include him actually, for those that their memories go back that far. Initially didn't look much, and initially looked like kids. Initially they were, you know.
Didn't he go out on loan though, Nick?
He went to Sweden, which did him some good actually. But he built himself up. He worked. He did the hard stuff, and this is, I think, what the boy's got to do. I mean, I don't knock him. I think there's something there. We saw with the finish against Derby, there is something there. He put that away like a seasoned striker would or should. Don't always get that, but he did it. Put him in a trench kind of warfare like we had against Sheffield, Harry. No, it is like sending a boy out to do a man's job. So I think that's going to be what the work we've got. The problem is that we're halfway through a season where, you know, we can look down as much as we probably not be looking up much more. We're going to be looking downwards from here, making sure we don't go.
That 180 quite lively, didn't it? That fucking we're only this far off the playoffs until the eternal pessimist comes in and goes, we're only this far off the relegation zone, and we don't do.
But that's as true. That's as true. I mean, that's equally as true. And you know, we've got to get some points on the board soon. We've got to get a few wins. I think that would do the club a power of good now that Neil's gone, and He's now part of the past, if you want to put it that way. We need to score a few wins, and I think he said in his post-match interview, which I played at the start of the show, listeners, that we want to get behind Newblood, because I think we do need to get some points on the board. And
The problem,
currently we're pulling apart, Harry. Sorry, go on.
yes. Well, the problem is everyone that gets mentioned. In the group chats that I'm in, and we all see it online. It's everyone that's mentioned. It's a bit like looking at food in a Scottish restaurant. No, it's all very bland, very much the same, and not very
It's all fried.
So you're gonna have to pick one of them. There seems to be a clamour because Gary O'Neill's been sacked this morning for Gary O'Neill to be given the job on the basis that he's a Millwall fan. He's fucking never got anyone from what is the short term this season? Don't get relegated, right? Then long term, medium to long term is to get promoted. Otherwise, what are we fucking doing here, right? That as a club, surely that's your aim, unless the new aim is to sign as many, bring through as many essays as you can and make as much money for Jimmy Berylson. I don't know, because on the pitch, surely the idea is to fill the den and get near the playoffs again and build again for one of those. But that seemingly, see, what annoys me is before all this shit and before the last couple of the games, which clearly this was building up towards, I would have thought we we could have been one good transfer window away from having a run towards the playoffs. We're not normally 5 points off. We're normally like 14th, and then we have a good run over Christmas. We had a run a little bit earlier this year. Obviously, injuries to key players at key times don't help, but that's where we are now. The Millwall one's longer in the tooth than others are looking and going, I've seen this club make changes before, and we don't tend to deal with them well. It normally takes us to change twice to get the right person, and the problem is they went for they went for Edwards last time.
Well, I was just going to mention him,
which was completely left field and completely out of the blue. And the problem is this time is everyone that I look on that list is fucking awful. I don't want any of them. That's me being honest. I say that about Cooper and I say that about Robbins, not because they're not done things. It's because Robbins has just come out of a long term in Coventry. 4 weeks ago? Within the last month, I don't think he naturally will have it in him to go again. Straight away, people need time to
some recharge,
recharge batteries and go again. Cooper's just been sacked by Leicester and probably he's on quite a big wage after only signing there in the summer. So those are the two that have, realistically, I think Robin's done a fantastic job, promoted from League 2 to League 1 to the Champ, a kick away from getting to the FA Cup. That's a great manager. That's the kind of person I want that's going for. But unfortunately, I don't think it's the right time. Then everyone else I look at on there, I don't want this cunt from Wickham. What the fuck are we doing? Do we not understand? It goes wrong every time we associate with Wickham. It's not good, right?
It's like Charlton. I mean, I was looking at Steve Gallon's footballing career, listeners. I've never actually looked at it before, Harry. I think Rod Little's done an article which he describes as unimpressive. He finds some word like unremarkable. That was it, unremarkable. This is. There's a basic problem. I mean, I was going to mention Joe Edwards because when we appointed him, which was the last season, wasn't it? Just at the start of last season, when Gary Rowett went, there was a sense that we were trying to be ambitious, but the problem with it is that we had a squad that were not able to play the style that Joe Edwards was going to try and bring in, because that's what I call the Premier League, pass it around, play it from the back. Everyone I think knows what I mean by that. Whereas we did not have a squad suited to that. We looked really ill at ease, didn't we? And it was going downwards very rapidly. That's one type of coach you could go for. Another variation of that kind of approach. Or you're going to get like an experienced manager who will want probably more control, but a bit like I imagine Neil Harris wanted, control over what kind of players are we picking up and who are we trying to polish to achieve this sell on, which we've always been, incidentally, listeners. I mean, this is not a new idea that we sell our talent. one of my first ever memories as a Millwall fan was we were flogging Gordon Hill way back in the 70s because we kind of had to, and that was seen as a way to progress, if you like, or at least keep the club alive. We've always done this. It's the idea that you dress it up as a policy and a program is that maybe that's the modern world for you, that old things have to be repackaged as new things.
But the problem is as
But,
well is you can't even develop your own talent because of the elite players' performance plan. If you look at
well,
Josh
we've let a
Stevenson,
few go, haven't we?
well, look,
Let's
well,
say
look
being
at
a
Josh.
good example.
Well, look at Josh Stevenson, because
Yeah.
Josh Stevenson, the most Millwall will get at Tribunal will be 250 grand, which is one
Yeah.
Lee Gregory. The kid's 18, could go on to have a brilliant career, right? But we'll only get 250 grand. The reason for playing the youngsters, so they're actually in the first team like SA and actually get money out of them is a sensible move. But that becomes a lot easier. If this was the long term plan, then we might as well have got relegated under Joe Edwards. Do you know what I mean? If this was, do you under, this
Yeah, no, I get where you're going because the Joe. I mean, it's easy to knock Joe Edwards, and he became a joke figure because obviously it all fell apart when he was trying to manage a group of men that were not really believing in him, or they didn't. The squad, I don't think, were capable of delivering what he would have wanted from them. And I think with Joe Edwards, you have to almost give him a blank sheet of paper in a sense of a very young squad of players that he can mould and get playing in that kind of Premier League way. That's best description I've got for it. If we bring in some experienced manager, let's talk about Robbins just as a pluck one from that little group that you've mentioned there. I can't believe that he's going to come in and do as he's told by somebody who, in footballing terms, I'm talking about Steve Gallen here, has not achieved what he has, and I think that was Neil's problem, that you're listening to somebody. It's like being at work, isn't it? When you're listening to a 20-year-old newbie coming in telling you to do things will go wrong. You either rebel against it or you walk away from it. And I think that's going to be a problem for whoever we bring in. There's what style of football I'm going to have written down here. What are we going to try and play it out from the back again, or is that going to be the new way? I mean, there's a
also
lot
there's
of questions to answer here. Midway through a season, Harry.
and 2 weeks before the fucking January window.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and whoever's in charge, let's be honest. I mean, I've got to ask you, Nick, for a change.
Mm.
Do you see SA being here at the end of the January transfer window? Because I fucking can't see it. I cannot see it in any way, shape, or form. Whether or not he comes back on loan, as some people have suggested, I don't know. But I cannot understand why, under the current guise of the Premier League, if you're a Premier League club and you need to fill the quota of a certain amount of English-born talent, why you wouldn't take him at 19 when the rumored fucking buyout clause and so on and so forth. So, look, at the end of the day, I can't see him being here. I'm old enough to let the younger listeners know I'm old enough to have seen us still fucking Teddy Sheringham, not Teddy Sheringham, fucking Teddy Sheringham on the brain.
Well, Sheringham, in the end he went. That
And
was.
we lost Tim Cahill for fucking basically £1 million, so like £4 million, weren't it, or £1 million? Fucking ridiculous.
It was. It seemed a reduced fee. I mean, Millwall's always had to sell its best players. Maybe now we've just dressed it up in clothes of a fancier nature that says this is what we're going to do as a matter of policy. And that's not an easy road to take because SA is our first test of this new approach, because we probably will receive a small bid by Premier League standards or European standards, Harry, and a big bid by Millwall standards because we haven't got 2 halfpennies to rub together. So whether they'll come up with some deal like a Zian Fleming deal where you're loaned back and the money gets paid at the end of I don't know. That's outside my food chain. But do I see him being it? No, the boy is a huge talent. We saw a little bit of it yesterday. He makes runs. He can do things that others can't. And I think he'll have some adjustment, obviously, at the Premier League level because teams are doubling on him, tripling on him, even on occasions, and he's got to find ways to do that. I think he's got the talent to do it. So I wish him nothing but the best. I just make it not Crystal Palace, Romain, if you're listening, mate. Make it someone else. But anyway, no, I think we probably will. And also Tanganga, Harry, a rock yesterday, rock in the last few games. When he's not there, we look like relegation fodder. When he is there, we look like a team that could hold its own in the mid-table at least. So I think we'll probably see him depart at some point because he's going to be a valuable asset for somebody.
I think we don't see the track. I mean, I've got to be honest. If you're a player and you've seen what's gone on behind the scenes, which clearly we're not. You know, we
Privy to,
everyone's speculating of what's gone on. Yeah, something's got to have gone on. I'm assuming that we will. Some players will not want to be with us, and if offers come in, they may decide to leave. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think one of them's Joe Bryan, but there it is.
Oh dear, yeah. I mean, it's a merciless league, the Championship, and unfortunately, it punishes the weakness. And I thought we looked pretty flaky against Coventry last week, and that's what I fear is going to come our way. I mean, I'm hoping there's a plan. If Jimmy Berylson and Steve Gallen are listening to this show, I don't know if they do or they don't. I really, really, really hope there's a plan beyond, the kind of wishful thinking of playing a kind of as Rob Liddell's put it in his article, but a kind of sub-Barcelona-esque type style. We do need to survive in the Championship. That will require experience, managerial experience, and somebody that can come in and actually command a group of players that have been around the track a few times. Harry, we've got to survive in this league, so that's number one job. And then, yes, I'm all for developing talent, and if it means we have to sell, let's get the right price for it. I mean, I'm hoping that's going to be something that you put your faith and trust in the leadership of the club. It's going to be an interesting few weeks, I think, Harry. I've got trepidation. Trepidation be the word I've written down.
Dressing it up to be terrifying. Is that better of a word? I feel like we've gone up Everest and seemingly have only realised how hard it is halfway up. We seem to be surprised by how fucking difficult this is.
We've gone halfway up Everest, and then we fucked off Sherpa Tenzing. That's all hard work. And we said we'll do it alone from here.
Yeah.
Come on, Edmund Hillary. We don't need the Sherpa.
We'll do it alone. It's like we've reached Everest, we've got to the top, and then gone. Well, now we've got to get down. Oh fuck! I didn't think of that. We've used all the oxygen. It's very. That's how I feel with it. I think I'm in your camp. I am terrified of what is about to occur.
Before I let you go, Harry, I've got to put the counter. I was told off before for not putting the counter arguments to Harry. It's all pro Neil Harris. I'm a huge admirer of him as a player and as a man and as a manager. So I will make no bones about that, listeners. But the critics would say that he favoured experience too much over the youngsters. Harry, I'm going to guess his answer would have been that the kids just aren't prepared, and maybe we've seen a little bit of that with touches of Imarku and touches of Ivanovic.
I will answer these with facts and not just people sitting who have 2 pints down the Colbo Lane and then watch a game of football half cut. I will describe this with Neil Harris last season was in charge of Gillingham. Gillingham got the most points per game return from Neil Harris in that season, despite the fact he was only there for a small amount of games. They got their most Cambridge. He then went to Cambridge. They got their best run of the season in the short time that he was there, collecting the most amount of points per the amount of games he was in charge. He come to Millwall. He ended up with the third big till recently had the third most amount of points out of anyone in the Championship. If we were talking about any other manager that was not related to this club, people would be sucking him off left, right, and centre. But it is trendy by the kids on Twitter to slag Neil Harris off. And I will say, be careful what you wish for. You can go to this Gary Rowett. We had Gary Rowett try and
he's on the betting list.
Oh,
can you believe it?
I think I might do a phony Monday and rip my season ticket up. I sit there and I look and I listen to the arguments. I've seen this all before. We've all seen it before. Holloway, I'm going to teach you a new way. It fucking failed. I've seen Rowett come in and talk about Den chaos and then fucking look after the 300 that would have gone to Middlesbrough yesterday and we'd have won 1-0. But then we'd have come to the Den and we'd get turned over 3, 4, 5 by Leeds. These are the things we can't. We're a club where we can't have everything, right? And I prefer to win at home and make the Den a fortress and know where we are and what we are as a club, standing for loyalty, hard work, family, all the things that our club supposedly prattles out anytime we're in the fucking media eye and wants us to do something as a fan base, which I'd point back to, including yourself. But, we all know what happened in the past. And then they throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's my opinion on it. Whether or not I'm proved wrong, only time will tell. I was one of the ones back in February saying, he's the only man for the job, and I was proved right. So, what do I know? That's all I'm going to say. Maybe I was lucky, or maybe I've just been here long enough to know what what this football club does to people, what it does to youngsters. We've traditionally not been very good at looking after youngsters. We've all known the names: Connor Wilkinson, Lovelace, Stevenson. There's not many that make it here. I'm sorry to say that. So you're going against 120 years worth of fucking history, basically 130 years worth of history, which would tend to say it won't work. But maybe it will. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's going to be an interesting few weeks, Harry. I want to say a big thank you for joining me Sunday. Let's wait and see who we get. So, listeners, that's the show today. We'll be back next week. Won't we? Blackburn Rovers at home next week. Let's keep our fingers crossed for something there.
We'll 1-6 on the fucking bounce.
Let's see where we go. Probably have Adam Barrett in charge, but anyway, there we are. Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now. Cheers, H.
Good afternoon, Nick. Bobby T, nice and calm from my home. Half-time analysis at the Riverside Stadium. Not going to really get my knickers in a twist or shout. I'm thinking boring football, crap football. Honeyman is shit. Harris is the last game. You could have gone out fighting. You're a legend, as we all know. Thank you, Neil Harris. But Honeyman starting. He's poo. Amaku crying out for pace. You forget Langstaff, misses chances. Remember the olden days when Sadler, Moody, even Harris himself scores goals? We can't even score goals. So it's half-time, and I just think to myself, the sooner Harris reigns over, get someone who, dead team, it's a stale team. Murray Wallace is too old now. I think he's gone off, apparently. So my half-time analysis, could it be a 1-1 draw? Could we snatch a 2-1 at Ivanovic? I don't know, their goal, I didn't see it. Latte. Yeah, he dropped Joe Bryan, but Harris, I love you. We all love you. But to go out fighting, the players don't want to do it for you. You're picking Honeyman. Bradshaw might say the day now. But Amaku, he must be thinking whoever comes in, he's the starter, the pace, worries people. Anyway, half-time, 1-0 Middlesbrough. And that's it. If you're not careful, Nick Hart, and the team's been below us, we could be dragged into the relegation fight. Bye for now. Half-time, I'll see you at the full-time. Good afternoon, Nick Hart. Another little analysis into the archives. Barring last season's Rowanese 1-0 hit and smash Marco 1-0. The last time we beat Boro is nearly 10 years ago, 2014. The Hoff, Stefan Mayhofer with a double, and then after that was again. The last time we beat Middlesbrough was George Fent own goal and Martin Wolford winning 2-1 at the Borough. I think 2009 or 11 with Holloway in charge. So, yeah, last time was Hoffmeyer 10 years ago, and then before that Martin Wolford, George Fent and Essay. So, still haven't equalised. Bye for now. Well, Achtung Millwall, that's it. I'm not fuming. I'm very disappointed. We lost 1-0. I just think, thank God the Neil Harris era is over. Thank you, Neil Harris, for everything. But I didn't go. I'm not doing 11 hours there and back. We lost 1-0 to a 10-minute goal. Whether he put on subs or whatever, he played the wrong formation. I'm not going to dig at Harris now. He's going to come and clap the fans now. Poor fans who went there on a 1-0 win. But I will tell you one thing. Whoever comes in now, if you're not careful, Blackburn at home. Ipswich got the late winner. Thank you, Neil Harris. We lost 1-0. I don't know if Mark Mahala came on. Or Mac will come on. Did we have chances? I can't say I didn't go Nick Hart after Mill. But I will give you one part message. Thank you, Neil Harris. And one more thing as well, yeah. Dave Livermore and Adam Barrett, fuck off. You better not come back of the Blackburn game. I want a new whole manager whole clear out. We need a clear out, Achtung Millwall, Nick Carr. Yeah, Billy Mitchell, yeah, youngster, Dan Kelly, Amarku. If you think Murray Wallace, Jake Cooper, Joe Bryan, Leonard's getting old, we need a clear out. The strikers aren't cutting it today. Yeah, Middlesbrough 1-0. Stoke got an equaliser as well. Anyway, not rabbiting. It's not the end of the season, but if we're not careful, Blackburn now, I think Blackburn won against Luton. I think Blackburn's first game, obviously, they're unbeaten now. They're coming to the Den next week. Manager in charge, new manager bounce, I don't know. But all he's got is Mihailo, and he's got Bradshaw. I don't know if he come on. He's got to be gone in January. One of Harris's players. So the future does not look very promising, if you ask me. If we're not careful, it's worrying times because we're going to get sucked in now. Blackburn, Oxford, was that a fight? Anyway, bye for now. Lost 1-0. I'm glad I didn't go. Harris, thank you. Livermore and Adam Barrett, you know where to go. Bye for now. Oh, one more thing. Yeah, sorry. Something Fairclough and Gallen, you fucking better get this right. Bye for now. Good evening, Nick Hart and Achtung Millwall. Now, I've just heard rumours online after this result and that Jay Thompson and from the podcast and all that Millwall. I hope this is not true. Adam Barrett will take temporary charge now to their final successor. Jerdowitz took a long time and they eventually got him and Andy Myers in. And Adam Barrett, Liverpool was obviously fucked off with Harris. I don't want Adam Barrett taking charge. We need a whole new clear out, a whole backroom staff, Robbins, Gary O'Neill, whoever. It needs to be a new team. So I just heard there's rumours going about Adam Barrett. I hope this is wrong, Achtung Millwall and Nick Hart. That's the last Bobby today. Take care. Very bad result. Bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.